Welcome, Gyronauts, to the Most Valuable Podcast. My name is Tristan Gates, and I'm your host for today. In this podcast, we're going to be discussing all the happenings for Team MVP sponsored players, how they stand after the November's rating changes, some of the events that they're going to be coming up with, as well as upcoming circuit events, some YouTube videos that are sponsoring some interesting MVP information, as well as the November releases for MVP and a small feature at the end in regards to glow disc golf. So, as I said, I'm your host, Tristan Gates. I have been playing disc golf for somewhere around 2 to 3 years in Tampa, Florida. Most notably, I started playing with MVP about 2 years ago, and I just really love the overmold and how it feels in your hand. And I compared it to a couple of the other brands as I was throwing it, and this one just was much more consistent. And especially when I smash it against a tree on what is attempting to be a 300-foot drive, and I hit first tree, the molds definitely hold up a whole lot better than when I was playing with other brands. So first and foremost, what we're going to be getting into is our Team MVP players and how their ratings have been holding up over the last month's rating point system. First, I'm going to go through all the ones that also have tournaments coming up in the near future, and I'm going to announce what those tournaments are. And then I'm going to go through a list of all the rest of the Team MVP players that just had ratings either increases or decreases or changes that don't have tournaments coming up. So first and foremost, we have Elaine King. She, in November, dropped one rating point from 943 to 942. And you will be able to see her in the 18th Annual Fall Disc Golf Classic, which is a B-tier tournament this weekend, the 16th and the 17th, at Northeast Creek Park in Jacksonville, North Carolina. Next up, we have Matt Dollar, who also went up 1 point from 1008 rated to 1009, and he will be competing in the 4th Annual Georgia Flying Disc Festival presented by MVP Discs, which is a C-tier tournament that is going to be going on as we speak, November 15th all the way through to November 17th. And that's at the North Georgia Canopy Tours in Lula, Georgia. Along with Matt Dollar at that tournament, we have our own Isaac Robinson, who raised up 2 rating points from 1015 to 1017, as well as John Matlack, who went down 1 rating point from 993 to 982. Next up, we have Sias Elmore, and if I pronounce any of these names wrong, I apologize. I have not met most of these people in person, and I might pronounce them wrong. So if I do, please give me a proper pronunciation in the comments below. So we have, going back on, we have Sias Elmore, who did compete last month, but ended up staying the same rating at 1017. They will be competing in the 2019 SoCal Series Championships during the Pro Weekend, which is this weekend. It's a B-tier tournament, and that is from November 16th to November 17th at the Brengel Terrace Disc Golf Course in Goat Hill in San Diego, California. Next up, we have Alicia Truchot. I did meet Alicia personally within a tournament last month called the Tampa Area Open, and she went up 9 points from that tournament. And the next one that she is going to be competing in is the 2019 Billy Goat Bash, which is a C-tier tournament, November 16th at Lamona Disc Golf Course in Brandon, Florida. And competing there with her is yours personally. I know that this is a team MVP thing, but I'm also going to put myself in there when it's applicable. I went up 4 rating points from 813 to 817, and I too will be competing in that Billy Goat Bash with Alicia. Next up, we have Brandon Oleski, who went up 4 points from 956 to 960. And Brandon will be competing in the Kick Out the Yams, which is a C-tier tournament on November 16th in Grand Woods Park, Lansing, Michigan. Along with Brandon, Kevin Baldwin will also be competing there. And I only mention Kevin because he does have a tournament coming up, but he did not have a ratings change over the past month, in the November month. Next up, we have Brian Sweet, who did go down 1 rating point from 942 to 941. He will be competing over the weekends, and not necessarily a tournament, but in a sanctioned league called the Huron Valley Saturday Singles, which has been running from October 5th and will be going through December 7th, and that is held at the Willow Metro Park course in Northville, Michigan. Along with Brian will also be Tyler Alfano at that same sanctioned league, who in November dropped 2 rating points from 955 to 953. Next up, we have Danny Parkins, who went down 1 rating point from 973 to 972, and he will be competing in the Belgian Turkey 17, sponsored by Discraft. That is I forgot to write down what tier tournament that is, but I think it's a B tier tournament that is be competing in the Sinks Disc Golf Course and Chickamauga Dam Park in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Danny, as well as Todd Reagan, will both be competing in that, and they will actually be, they're competing at both tournaments locations, the Sinks as well as Chickamauga Dam Park. Both of them are going to be in the A pool, so the pro pool, which starts at the Sinks in the morning on, I believe it's the 16th, this Saturday, and then moving on to the Chickamauga Dam Park in the afternoon for their pool. And I don't remember if I mentioned this, but I'll throw it up there again. Todd Reagan actually ended up dropping 3 points from 974 to 971 this last month. Next up, we have Kimberly Gianola. She ended up dropping another 5 points from 885 to 880. And she'll be competing in the St. Joseph Parkway Throwdown, which is a C tier, on November 16th at the Bartlett Park in St. Joseph, Missouri. Our penultimate team MVPer, Mehdi Barakabila, which I apologize, I'm not fluent in French or French names. He ended up raising 1 rating point from 973 to 974, and he will be competing in the Challenge IDF number 1 Open de Bussy, which is a C-tier tournament on November 17th. I wasn't able to figure out what disc golf course that he's going to be playing at or where in France that it is, because that is not listed anywhere that I could find. So if you do happen to know, please feel free to leave a comment below to let everyone know, in our French listeners, where they can go watch Mehdi compete. And then last, but certainly not least, Tyler Schrock. He ended up staying at a 966 rating, and he will be competing in the Last Minute Throwdown, which is a C-tier tournament on November 30th, and that's at Lakewood King County Park in Seattle, Washington. So next up, I'm going to run through a list of all of our team MVPers that are no longer competing for the month of November, and many of them are no longer competing for the rest of the year, just due to the off season. So I'm going to go through these rather quickly. We have Sarah Hokum, who went up 1 rating point from 965 to 966. Aiden Guthrie, who stayed at a 975 rating. Amanda Melwicki, who went up 2 rating points from 898 to 900. Brian Usher, who went up 1 rating point from 920 to 921. Cameron Beck, who went down 1 rating point from 942 to 941. DJ Hunt, who took the cake out of all team MVPers this month, actually tied to take the cake, went up 10 rating points from 962 to 972. Erica Sheepish, and I apologize if I pronounced that wrong. I think I might have said that wrong. She went up 5 rating points from 848 to 853. Florian Lingenhull stayed at an 986 rating. Jacob Armbrust dropped 3 rating points from 985 to 982. Jeff Face went down 6 rating points from 1017 to 1011. Jessica Oleski went down 5 rating points from an 866 to an 861. John Dorn also went down 3 rating points from a 932 to a 929. Jesse Brooks went down 1 rating point from 830 to 829. Giovanni Vino, stayed at a 994 rating. Justin Bilodeau went up 2 rating points from a 1008 to a 1010. Landon Brooks went up 9 rating points, coming in second or third place, from a 760 to a 769. Kaylee Howell went down 7 rating points from an 863 to an 856. Mike Sully Sullivan went up 5 points from an 843 to an 848. Raven Newsome, who tied for the lead among Team MVP players for raised rating points, went up 10 rating points from a 980 to a 990, so almost hitting our 1,000 goal there. Sasha Gortz, which again, I apologize if I pronounced that wrong. The O is, I'm not sure how to pronounce that personally. Went up 4 rating points from a 939 to a 943. Alec Anderson went down 2 rating points from a 958 to a 956. And Wyatt Taylor, to round off the Team MVP sponsored players, went up 1 rating point from an 886 to an 887. So next, I want to highlight some of our circuit events that Team MVP has been sponsoring. We have 5 of them at the current moment that I saw in the month of November. We have the Wildcat MVP versus Axiom Challenge, which, as you can tell, is an MVP Axiom Challenge. That is being held November 16th at the Simpson Disc Golf Course in Franklin, Kentucky. Next up, we have the 5th annual Jacksonville MVP versus Axiom Circuit Challenge, which again is another MVP versus Axiom Challenge, on November 16th, and that is in the Ed Austin Park in Jacksonville, Florida. Next up, we have the Thanksgiving Throwdown, which again is another MVP versus Axiom Challenge, which is being held November 16th at the Paynesville Recreation Park in Paynesville, Ohio. Next up, we have the Jungle Space Race. I don't think I pronounced that right either. I apologize. Space Race 2, which is a space race on November 16th, and that is being held in Wilbur Young Park in Blue Springs, Missouri. Next up, we have the Neighborhood 9, which is a space race on November 17th. I couldn't exactly figure out what course this was on. It just mentioned that it was a private course, but that's being held in New Windsor, New York. And lastly, we have the Shooting for Eagle, which is an MVP versus Axiom challenge, which is being held on November 23rd, and that is at the Lay Farm Park in Durham, North Carolina. So next up, I want to mention the November MVP new release announcement that came out. So as you guys saw, they're releasing a bunch of new Cosmic discs. Specifically, they have a Cosmic Neutron Volt, which is our 8-speed, fairly overstable driver. It's a 2-fade that looks pretty awesome. Next, we have our Cosmic Neutron Entropy, which is a 4-speed and I believe a 3-fade. So again, another overstable disc. And lastly, we have the Cosmic Electron Atom coming out in soft, medium, and firm plastics, which I believe the Atom is a 2-speed. No, I'm sorry, it's a 3-speed, very stable disc. So negative 0.5 disc. And lastly, we have an announcement for mystery boxes. Now, I couldn't find any information on the MVP site or in any of the places that I normally frequent as far as the mystery boxes are concerned, but I do know that several of them are supposed to be containing the watermelon stamps that are going pretty heavily right now on eBay, as well as on some of the Facebook groups for buy, selling, and trading. And I want to show you just real quick. I have here a Envy Cosmic Electron, which I know it's a little bit hard to see, but it is a purple lines here with a much lighter purple in between. And I have thrown a couple of this. This one's a little bit more newer, in a heavier weight, a 172, but I do have a more orange creamsicle looking one, which is at about a 164, 162 gram. And I do really love throwing these, especially as my off the tee putter throw. Um, it definitely is stable, and it definitely can finish a 200 or even 250-foot hole nice and soft and comfortably without having a major skip of an overstable long range driver or distance driver. So I do really like these, but this is the sort of look and feel of what the new entropy discs, or excuse me, what the new cosmic discs are going to be looking like, that are going to be coming out. And those I believe are going to be coming out November 23rd, if I'm correct. I might have gotten that wrong, but I believe it's November 23rd. And in case you're wondering, this is the atom that's going to be coming out, not specifically in the cosmic plastic, but it is their electron soft plastic that I have here. It is a very gummy plastic that I do really love, which is my go-to putter. I did used to throw this one a lot more. I have been falling back on the ion putter, just because it's a little bit heavier and it's holding up in the Florida winds with hurricane season coming in the round, and a lot more rain going on. Um, and so that's just what to look forward for coming up in this uh, throughout this month of November. Um, the next thing that I want to jump into is a feature of uh, it's going to call back to October's announcement of the Eclipse Glow Crave and the Eclipse Glow Crave Special Edition, which I did before yesterday have two of these in my bag. However, excuse me, one of each in the bag, the regular Eclipse Glow Crave and the Special Edition Eclipse Glow Crave. But I lost them out on the course while I was practicing for a glow uh, event that was happening nearby me last night. I do really love the Craves. They're very very stable. They end very comfortably. They're not going to give you a huge skip unless you actually throw it with hyzer at a very 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 low angle. But I was able to throw these a good 250 feet with very little power, and I truthfully don't have a whole lot of power on me. Um, but with the regular Crave, I had gotten a very light plastic. I think it was a 156 that was able to go, like I said, about 250 feet with very little effort on my part. So I really do like these. But that kind of wants to lead into what I want to mention, which is because this is the off season and because of daylight savings time, for many of you, we're starting to get into the times where the sun is dropping a little bit sooner than normal, and many of our afternoon or after work events or competitions that we have, our handicaps and our doubles competitions, are being cut off due to the lack of sunlight. And so what you're seeing more often now at this time of the year is glow competitions and glow events. And so last night I was competing in my first glow event at a course local to me here in Tampa called Showman's Disc Golf Course. And I really did like it. It was very different and interesting. One thing that I did notice was that I wasn't putting a whole lot of stress on the things that were distracting me while putting. So my putting was phenomenal last night. I sunk a circle two on the knee, falling forward putt from probably about 45 to 50 feet away, which I was really proud of. It was underneath a tree. Um, as well as I had another one that was in a bush that was only like maybe 20 feet away, but it was still putting through a small circle in the bush. And so, what I'd like to mention is just a few things that uh, you want to remind yourself of going on if you ever decide to go out to one of these uh, glow events. I mean, if you have any other ideas, please, I'd love to hear all of them in the comments below. Um, and so first off, I would like to mention, obviously, you have to bring your black light uh, and probably a regular flashlight. I saw several people last night that did not have glow discs, that were kind of just throwing whatever, and so we could kind of see roughly where they landed. But obviously, using a black light to try to find those is not going to be easy. So if you bring a regular flashlight that's pretty bright, you can be able to shine it into the bushes and into the areas that you think it might have landed when you get over there. And I would like to make a call out to the MVP blacklight, which was phenomenal last night. I did see last night some brighter, bigger blacklight lights, but this one fits in your pocket really well. It is very easy to not even feel it while you're driving. And it worked out really well with the other disc that I was throwing last night, which was my Glow Envy. I ended up having to resort to this on a couple of drives just due to the fact of I didn't know where it was going to go, and it was definitely a lot of foliage, but this definitely glows really, really well at night, especially if you get a whole lot of shine on it just before you end up throwing it. The next thing that I want to call out is make sure that you bring bug spray. At least in Tampa area where I was, there was a lot of mosquitoes out, and that is roughly about the time that you're going to be playing is roughly when the mosquitoes are going to be coming out. So I highly recommend bug spray. We did use some deep bug spray that was not helping at all. If you like, there are some more nature-friendly, non-deep bug spray that is on Amazon that you can definitely pick up and carry that around in your bag with you. The next thing that I want to mention, and this kind of goes back to the people throwing discs that did not have glow on them, is if you don't have glow discs, there are a couple of things that you can do, especially, and I think only if your event is non-sanctioned. The one thing that I saw that was it was an interesting take on glow, but it didn't really work out because it rubbed off a lot, was applying some glow paint to your discs. It definitely does show up in the blacklight, but it was very difficult to see even after they had thrown it, and because it was raining at the time, the paint kind of faded off and didn't hold on there very well. So that is one option, especially if you're not playing in the rain. Another option, which I thought was very interesting, was picking up a roll of glow tape. The glow tape held up really, really well, and I do caution you that by adding on tape onto your discs, it is going to change not only the weight, but also the way that it flies ever so slightly. So if you are 100% certain that like your regular Crave goes very, very stable, and you add some glow tape on it, it might alter the flight dynamics of your disc. So I just want to fair warn you for that. But on a positive note, the glow tape was holding up its glow more than almost all of the discs that we were throwing on our card. And I was throwing purely MVP Axiom discs, which have the glow rim around the outside of it. Those were not holding the glow as well as the tape that I saw. So I definitely recommend picking up some of that if in the event that you don't have glow discs and you still want to go complete in a glow event. I will link some of those in the description below, as well as a place where you can find all of these discs that I showed you, and any other interesting things that I have to label here, as well as the bug spray, and another thing coming up later on in the podcast. The second to last thing that I want to mention is make sure that you are following where your disc goes. And if you are throwing down a dog leg or something like that, try to have a spotter as well. It was very difficult if you don't see your disc flying through the sky, which we had a little, our sky wasn't pitch black, it was a little bit lit up. And so throwing and not seeing where your discs are going at all is going to be making a very difficult effort on trying to find your disc. Now, luckily, I brought my son with me, and he seemed to be an excellent finder of discs. And so where I would have lost probably my whole bag of 5 discs, he ended up finding all of them with the exception of one, which I threw OB. in phenomenal fashion. But I did have a couple of my partner in the doubles event. He ended up throwing a couple of them in areas that were a little bit more difficult to find once he had thrown them. And so I do recommend, again, uh, make sure that you are following where your disc is going. You keep an eye on where it is. And in the event that you're throwing around a curve, make sure that you have a spotter out there somewhere that is at least watching your disc and can follow where it's going. And lastly, I want to mention, go out there and have fun. I know that in these tournaments or in these competitions, you're competing a lot, especially for money. Luckily, I did have a partner which was really good in the state of Florida. He's well known. And he was phenomenal in throwing while I was kind of struggling a little bit. Um, but I was out there to have fun. It was raining. It was really dark out, and sometimes I got a little bit discouraged. But luckily, he was there to kind of pick me up and make sure that I was having a fun time and not worrying about what happened if I missed a small putt. Um, Maybe hitting the band or completely airballing it. He made sure that I wasn't discouraged on myself and whatnot. So I wanted to just encourage you, make sure that you guys are having fun while you're doing this and not getting down on yourself at all. And the last thing that I want to mention is some YouTube videos that we have coming out over the last month that feature certain MVP things or maybe team MVP players. First and foremost, Central Coast Disc Golf did have our own Justin Bilodeau on a feature card for the 2019 Twin Falls Classic. I really recommend you going and watching that. I have not seen it yet, but I'm going to be watching it shortly after I finish this video. Um, and I did see on one of the Facebook posts that he had a pretty remarkable celebration for a putt. So I'm really excited to see that. Next up, I want to mention the Disc Golf Examiner, who I had not seen many of his videos before, but he did host an unboxing for the MVP November releases that were mentioned, the Entropy, the Volt, and the Atoms. He has them in hand, and he's kind of going over the feel of them, some of the flight numbers on them, and the dominess of them compared to other previously released Volts and um, Entropies. And then lastly, obviously, I got to give a shout out to MVP Discs, who put up a Cosmic Electron Atom video in this past month. And so that's going to wrap it up for this podcast. What I do want to mention is that obviously this isn't going to have a whole lot of flashiness, and I apologize for that. I am going to be working on this. This was my first video, and I kind of wanted to get it out there quickly because I know that many of our players are competing in tournaments this weekend, and there was many circuit events that are coming up this weekend. So I really wanted to get it out there so that you guys could see it and that you guys could hopefully go cheer on our Team MVP players, as well as maybe be able to compete in some of the circuit events. And so I'm going to wrap this up. My name is Tristan Gates again, and I thank you for watching this. Please leave a comment below on anything that I can do better, anything that you liked, anything that you disliked. Leave a thumbs up, leave a thumbs down. You know what to do. And if you really like this, I would really appreciate you subscribing. I'm going to be trying to put out these videos monthly. However, if the demand is up there, maybe I'll be able to do it bi-weekly, bringing in a little bit more content. For instance, maybe interviewing some of our Team MVP players, doing some tutorial videos on throwing or the different flight numbers, or maybe anything that you guys really want to see. Again, list those down in the comments below. I want to hear them. Uh, Nothing is too bad or too awful to put on there. Please, if I look funny, if I have a face for radio rather than video, please let me know. All right. Again, my name is Tristan Gates, and this is MVP Podcast, the most valuable podcast, signing off. Thank you very much.